Hey, listen, this is something I've experienced a lot in my interactions with people. Maybe people like you. You've got something to say. But you know what? Most people are afraid to say it. What I want to do in this video, I want to help you overcome some of the fears that are getting in the way of you mastering the message God's giving you. In my latest book, I talk about something, I think it's the first time I talked about it publicly, actually. And I talk about this experience that I had around 2014, I think it was. It was my final year of doctoral work. I think it was when I was writing my first book, Represent Jesus. We were in the middle of literally 2 building campaigns at our church. We weren't supposed to be doing 2. One was supposed to be finished, and we were supposed to be starting another. But we got into, we ran into some delays with the first building project because the community didn't want us there, and a whole lot of different reasons for that. But all of this like kind of converged on me at the same time. And I think I was traveling extensively, speaking at that particular point also. So imagine all of that kind of conversion at the same time. And I woke up one morning, I had a panic attack, and no history of anxiety, no issue with anything like that. It wasn't chemical, it was situational. It was just so much was going on at the same time. And at that point, I didn't have the tools, the skills, the knowledge, the insight on how to organize a life, how to create margin, how to set boundaries, the whole 9 yards. So anyway, that was like a really, really tough season for me. And I remember what happened on the other end of that, and people that I started working with to help me, like a counselor I started working with to help me, a coach I started working with to help me. And one of the things that I remember from that season, straight up, and I want y'all to listen to me, and I'm a preacher telling you this, that season was probably one of the most deeply transformative seasons of my entire life. Like there's this image that this guy named Peter Scazzaro uses when he talks about like spiritual growth, and it's an image of an iceberg. And he shows like the part of the iceberg that's above the water. And we think, yo, that's the iceberg. Then he shows a picture of the iceberg that's beneath the water. And the part of the iceberg that is beneath the water is much larger than the part of the iceberg that is above the water. And so what I experienced during that season was like deep water change, like stuff that was kind of like underneath the surface. And that transformation, I think, is a transformation that not only benefited me, I think it transformed my ministry. And now I am able to help serve people in ways that I couldn't before. Like literally after that, my first coach at that time was a guy named Josh Kahn. And the way Josh helped me change my life, I was like, yo, something awakened in me. Like what Josh Kahn did for me, I want to do for other people. So that's when I started getting trained and certified and educated in coaching. And I was doing that for a while, and now I'm at the point where I train and I certify other people in transformational coaching. So I not only do it myself, I train other people on how to do it. Here's a point that I'm making, and I'm a preacher saying this, that below the iceberg change did not happen for me from a sermon. Are sermons important? I do one every week. Of course they're important, but that deep change, it didn't come from a sermon. It came from people who had something to say, but they never would say it from a stage like I did. And if they didn't have the courage to master their message, then people like me would have been stuck in ruts that I was stuck in. And this is what I learned. Some of the most meaningful messages that people need to hear aren't messages that are gonna come from pulpits and platforms. They're messages that are gonna come in the context of conversations. And this is why I'm so passionate about talking to people like you who are listening to me, who have a message. You've got something to say. It may not ever come from a platform. It may not ever come from a pulpit. It may not ever be a keynote. It may not ever be a TED Talk. But there's some experiences that you've had, some insight that you got, some education that you've got that is literally the answer to somebody else's issue. There are people like me who need to know what you know, but they'll never know it unless you have the courage to say it. So like in this season of my life and this season of my ministry, I'm super passionate about helping people release the messages that they need to release so that they can help the people that they've been assigned to help. But this is what I've learned in doing this. Man, this is absolutely one of people's greatest fears. Like maybe I'm saying this to you and this is resonating with you right now and you're thinking, yeah, I do have a message. See, you're probably in one or two seasons and there's this program I'm running right now, Myra Golan and I call Content Creation Academy. And we're helping people in this area. We're helping them master their message. And you're probably in one or two seasons, and this is what I taught in one of the trainings recently. Some people are in a season where they're trying to find their voice, right? It's like there's something in them or some things in them that they need to get out, whether it's book form, podcast form, whatever. Like whatever that delivery system is, it's like, yo, there's some stuff you got to get it out so you can help people. So some people are in the stage where they're trying to figure out how to get it out. Then other people are in a season where they're not trying to find their voice, they're trying to raise their volume. What does that mean? That means that they're already doing some things in a certain way, they just need to say it louder, right? They need to raise the volume so they can reach more people. Like I was literally in a meeting recently, like I was in a meeting before I came into this video, and someone in the meeting was like, hey, when I was speaking, they were like, hey, we can hear you speak, but it's difficult to hear other people speak, and that's maybe because they're further away from the mic. So those people that are further away from the mic had to raise their volume so that more people could hear them. And so that's the season that some people are in. It's like, okay, you stepped out, you started to do some things, but you got to raise your volume so that more people can hear you. And this is what I've learned. There's a common denominator, whether a person's trying to find their voice and get out there for the first time or raise their volume, and it's fear. Very often when I'm talking to people, I'm like, yo, your issue isn't competency. They're thinking, they're thinking I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, and I'm listening to them and I'm like, your issue isn't competency. Your issue is courage. Whether you're trying to find your voice or raise your volume, it's fear. And that fear has to be addressed because I'm gonna tell you something. That fear is a thief, and it's robbing you and it's robbing others of these two things. Number one, it's robbing you of fulfillment. Listen, when you get better spiritually, everything get better. Spiritual life is not the only important part of your life. It is the most important part of your life because it affects every other part that's important. But you don't get stronger spiritually accidentally. It takes intentionality. You need to get fed, and you gotta learn how to understand, how to interpret, how to apply, and how to explain the Bible. The Bible's the blueprint to your best life. And I'm gonna tell you, Sunday's not enough to give you the tools that you need to get better with the Bible. I want you to join me in my community called Bible U, where I help you take your understanding, your application, and your explanation of the Bible to another level. What do I mean by that? There is some internal satisfaction that is only attached to your willingness and your ability to help other people. I'm just telling you. I've said this a gazillion times and I keep saying it. God is taking your fulfillment and he's hidden it in your purpose. There is some fulfillment that you only get by accomplishing that which you were born to do, helping those that you were born to help. There's a satisfaction that comes with that is unexplainable. It's a fulfillment that you get from nothing else. I want you to hear me. There is no possession that gives you that kind of fulfillment. It's just like, I can't even describe it. The fulfillment that I get from doing something like this, knowing that I'm helping people, there's no crib, there's no car, there's no clothes that makes you feel this way. And if you don't know this feeling I'm describing, you missing out. If I'm saying this and you're like, I can't relate, I feel bad. Because there's another level of emotional satisfaction that exists for you and you're not experiencing it. And once you've been exposed to it, it becomes so valuable to you that you refuse to live without it. That's kind of like where I am. Once I tapped into this, I was like, man, anything less than this is settling. Like this new experience became my new standard. Once I knew, oh, this level of satisfaction, I started aligning everything in my life with it. I was sitting not too long ago, I think I did a VIP day for our inner circle. And it's called I3, where we help people increase their influence, impact, income. And so we were doing a VIP day. I had one of my friends who was contributing, and he was helping people with messaging. Like, God's giving you a message, but you got to learn messaging. How do I message? How do I strategically use messaging to communicate the message that God's given me? And he was talking about messaging, and then he started talking about marketing, all these things. And I sat back and I looked at our director of operations on the business side, who was sitting next to me. I said, "This is amazing, isn't it?" He said, "Yes." I said, "This is powerful, isn't it?" He says, "Yes." And I looked at him and said, "I don't care about any of it." Not that I don't care about it, because we have to do all of that stuff. We know the marketing. We know we got to do marketing. We know we got to do messaging. But meaning, that doesn't make my baby leap. And I was like, in our programs, we need to have people like this come in and talk about this, because this makes his baby leap. It does not make my baby leap. And if it doesn't make my baby leap in this season of my life, I don't want to do it. It can't just be profitable. It's got to be purposeful, because profitable only gives me finances. Purposeful brings me fulfillment and finances. So I get both. So once I got exposed to that feeling, I aligned my whole life around it. But that can't happen for you, and it can't happen for others unless you deal with the fears. And here's the truth. There are a few fears that you got to arrest. One's the fear of embarrassment. That's why some people aren't getting their messages out. They don't want to be embarrassed. They're thinking about what people are going to think about them. And if you're thinking about what people are going to think about you, you are putting, I want you to catch this. This is really important. You are putting people's opinions above your own assignment. And I want to tell you something. People are always going to have opinions. I was like, I got to get better, because that's the second fear. It's the fear of ineffectiveness. If I do it, I'm not going to be good. I'm not going to be good. And a lot of times people have fear of ineffectiveness because they're really suffering with comparison. It's like they're looking at what someone else is doing and they're like, I can't do that, so that means I'm not good. Nah, fam. My sheep know my voice, another one they will not follow. That's what Jesus says, right? Now we can take that and apply it principally to mean that there are some people, sheep, that are attracted to certain voices. So why in the world would you want to do it like that other person? Because you're not called to their sheep. So you're going to be most effective when you're most authentic. So yeah, you'll be ineffective if you try to be that person. But if you're authentically you, there's a group of people that'll be drawn to you, that are committed to you, right? So there's this fear of embarrassment, fear of ineffectiveness, and then the third and final was this fear associated with imposter syndrome. This is when your awareness of your own imperfections and your own struggles causes you to think you're not qualified now to help people who still hadn't arrived to where you are. See, that's what people, that's like the illogical nature of imposter syndrome. It's like, well, I'm still struggling and I'm still trying to figure it out. Duh, we all are. And the people that are on different levels are just dealing with a different level of incompetence. Like every time you graduate to another level, where you got to relearn some stuff. And so this imposter syndrome will have you thinking, I don't know enough, I can't help people, I'm still struggling myself, not realizing that yes, you got some challenges. Yes, you got some imperfections, but you've still progressed in the journey, on your journey, in a way that a lot of people haven't made it to yet. So those people still need your help to get to where you are. See, just because you aren't where you want to be, doesn't mean you can't help people get to where you are. Because you aren't where you want to be, but where you are is somebody's dream. And your job is to help them get there. And my job is to push you into that. And that's why I'm having this conversation with you. Because there are people like me who are going to need Josh Kahns, people like you, so that their life can be flourishing. My life is flourishing because somebody got over their fear and put their message out to the world. So I hope you see this video as a push for you to do the very same thing. Find your voice, raise your volume, because we need it.
Do you feel that as long as they intentionally pursue overcoming, that they do overcome? Or do you find some cases where people have a really hard time even using the tools to overcome the fear? And if they do, where do you go?
It's scary, like most people in my experience don't overcome. And it's not because they can't overcome. It's because they don't have enough people telling them that being scared is normal. That's why I'm doing the video. I'm trying to normalize the fear, because they waiting on that to go away to start. And what I want to do is tell them, it might not go away. Do it anyway. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And so like courage isn't even the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to act in spite of fear. It's like doing it scared. And I remember like every time I opened a location, it was hard for me to, on the church side, it's hard for me to sleep the night before. Every time. Every single time. Because I'm wondering, are people gonna show up? And then the second week is more nerve-wracking than the first week because it's like, are they gonna come back? Right? Every time I run a challenge, every time I got, you know, it's just like, it's there. When I started doing marketplace stuff, it's like, how are people gonna think now that I'm in the marketplace and selling stuff? It's there, you just do it anyway. So I think it's just a muscle that you only develop when you start using it. And that's what this video is about. Like I'm trying to get people to like, hey, just start using it, because I don't know if this pull of fear is gonna get weaker, but your courage and faith muscle can get stronger if you just start doing it. And those things will have less of an impact on you.